SAGΑTHÀ VAGGA, translated by Bhikkhu Sujato. Seven matted hair ascetics. At one time the Buddha was staying near Savatthi in the eastern monastery, the stilt longhouse of Megara's mother. Then, in the late afternoon, the Buddha came out of retreat and sat outside the gate. Then King Pasenadi of Kosala went up to the Buddha, bowed and sat down to one side. Now at that time 7 matted hair ascetics, 7 Jain ascetics, 7 naked ascetics, 7 one-cloth ascetics, and 7 wanderers passed by not far from the Buddha. Their armpits and bodies were hairy, and their nails were long, and they carried their stuff with shoulder poles. Then King Pasenadi got up from his seat, arranged his robe over one shoulder, knelt with his right knee on the ground, raised his joined palms toward those various ascetics, and pronounced his name 3 times. Sirs, I am Pasenadi, king of Kosala. I am Pasenadi, king of Kosala. I am Pasenadi, king of Kosala. Then, soon after those ascetics had left, King Pasenadi went up to the Buddha, bowed, sat down to one side, and said to him, Sir, are they among those in the world who are perfected ones, or who have entered the path to perfection? Great King, as a layman enjoying sensual pleasures, living at home with your children, using sandalwood imported from Kasi, wearing garlands, perfumes and make-up, and accepting gold and money, it's hard for you to know who is perfected or on the path to perfection. You can get to know a person's ethics by living with them, but only after a long time, not casually, only when paying attention, not when inattentive, and only by the wise, not the witless. You can get to know a person's purity by dealing with them. You can get to know a person's resilience in times of trouble. You can get to know a person's wisdom by discussion, but only after a long time, not casually, only when paying attention, not when inattentive, and only by the wise, not the witless. It's incredible, sir. It's amazing how well said this was by Master Gotama. Sir, these are my spies, my undercover agents returning after spying on the country. First they go undercover, then I have them report to me. And now, when they have washed off the dust and dirt, and are nicely bathed and anointed, with hair and beard dressed in white, they will amuse themselves, supplied and provided with the 5 kinds of sensual stimulation. Then, knowing the meaning of this, on that occasion the Buddha recited these verses. It's not easy to know a man by his appearance. You shouldn't trust them at first sight, for undisciplined men live in this world disguised as the disciplined. Like a fake earring made of clay, like a copper halfpenny coated with gold, they live hidden in the world, corrupt inside, but impressive outside. Five Kings. At Savatthi. Now at that time 5 kings, headed by Pasenadi, were amusing themselves, supplied and provided with the 5 kinds of sensual stimulation. And this discussion came up among them. What's the best of sensual pleasures? Some of them said, sights are the best of sensual pleasures. Others said, sounds are best. Others said, smells are best. Others said, tastes are best. Others said, touches are best. Since those kings were unable to convince each other, King Pasenadi said to them, Come, good sirs, let's go to the Buddha and ask him about this. As he answers, so we'll remember it. Yes, dear sir, replied those kings. Then those 5 kings, headed by Pasenadi, went to the Buddha, bowed and sat down to one side. King Pasenadi reported their conversation to the Buddha and said, "Sir, what's the best of sensual pleasures?" "Great King, which kind of sensual stimulation is best is defined by which is most agreeable, I say. The very same sights that are agreeable to some are disagreeable to others. When you're happy with certain sights, as you've got all you wished for, you don't want any other sight that's better or finer. For you, those sights are perfect and supreme. The very same sounds, when you're happy with certain sounds, as you've got all you wished for, you don't want any other sound that's better or finer. For you, those sounds are perfect and supreme. The very same smells, when you're happy with certain smells, as you've got all you wished for, you don't want any other smell that's better or finer. For you, those smells are perfect and supreme. The very same tastes, when you're happy with certain tastes as you've got all you wished for, you don't want any other taste that's better or finer. For you, those tastes are perfect and supreme. The very same touches that are agreeable to some are disagreeable to others. When you're happy with certain touches as you've got all you wished for, you don't want any other touch that's better or finer. For you, those touches are perfect and supreme. Now at that time, the lay follower Chandanangalika was sitting in that assembly. Then he got up from his seat, arranged his robe over one shoulder, raised his joined palms toward the Buddha and said, "I feel inspired to speak, Blessed One. I feel inspired to speak, Holy One." "Then speak as you feel inspired," said the Buddha. Then the lay follower Chandanangalika extolled the Buddha in his presence with an appropriate verse. Like a fragrant pink lotus that blooms in the morning, its fragrance unfaded, see Angirasa shine, bright as the sun in the sky. Then those 5 kings clothed Chandanangalika with 5 upper robes, and Chandanangalika in turn endowed the Buddha with these robes. A bucket of rice. At Savatthi. Now at that time King Pasenadi of Kosala used to eat rice by the bucket. Then after eating, King Pasenadi of Kosala went up to the Buddha, huffing and puffing. He bowed and sat down to one side. Then, knowing that King Pasenadi was huffing and puffing after eating, on that occasion the Buddha recited this verse. When a man is always mindful, knowing moderation in eating, his discomfort diminishes, and he ages slowly, taking care of his life. Now at that time the Brahmin student Sudassana was standing behind the king. Then King Pasenadi addressed him, "Please, dear Sudassana, memorize this verse in the Buddha's presence, and recite it to me whenever I am presented with a meal. I'll set up a regular daily allowance of $100 for you." "Yes, Your Majesty," replied Sudassana. He memorized that verse in the Buddha's presence, and then, whenever the king was presented with a meal, he would repeat it. When a man is always mindful, knowing moderation in eating, his discomfort diminishes, and he ages slowly, taking care of his life. Then the king gradually got used to having no more than a pint of rice. After some time, King Pasenadi's body slimmed right down. Stroking his limbs with his hands, at that time he was inspired to exclaim, "The Buddha truly has compassion for me in both the good of the present life and the good of the next life." Battle. First. At Savatthi. Then King Ajatasattu, Vaidehiputta of Magadha, mobilized an army of 4 divisions and marched to Kasi to attack King Pasenadi of Kosala. When King Pasenadi heard of this, he mobilized an army of 4 divisions and marched to Kasi to defend it against Ajatasattu. Then the 2 kings met in battle, and in that battle Ajatasattu defeated Pasenadi, who withdrew to his own capital at Savatthi. Then several mendicants robed up in the morning and, taking their bowls and robes, entered Savatthi for alms. Then, after the meal, when they returned from alms round, they went up to the Buddha, bowed, sat down to one side, and told him what had happened. Then the Buddha said, "Mendicants, King Ajatasattu has bad friends, companions, and associates, but King Pasenadi has good friends, companions, and associates. Yet on this day, King Pasenadi will have a bad night's sleep as one defeated." That is what the Buddha said. Victory gives rise to enmity, the defeated sleep badly. The peaceful sleep well, having left victory and defeat behind. Battle, second. Then King Ajatasattu Vedihiputta of Magadha mobilized an army of 4 divisions and marched to Kasi to attack King Pasenadi of Kosala. When King Pasenadi heard of this, he mobilized an army of 4 divisions and marched to Kasi to defend it against Ajatasattu. Then the 2 kings met in battle, and in that battle Pasenadi defeated Ajatasattu and captured him alive. Then King Pasenadi thought, "Even though I've never betrayed this King Ajatasattu, he betrayed me. Still, he is my nephew. Now that I've vanquished all of Ajatasattu's elephant troops, cavalry, chariots, and infantry, why don't I let him loose with just his life?" And that's what he did. Then several mendicants told the Buddha what had happened. Then, knowing the meaning of this, on that occasion the Buddha recited these verses. "A man goes on plundering as long as it serves his ends, but as soon as others plunder him, the plunderer is plundered. For the fool thinks they've got away with it as long as the wickedness doesn't ripen. But when the wickedness ripens, they fall into suffering. A killer creates a killer. A conqueror creates a conqueror. An abuser creates abuse, and a bully creates a bully. And so, as deeds unfold, the plunderer is plundered." A daughter. At Savatthi. Then King Pasenadi of Kosala went up to the Buddha, bowed, and sat down to one side. Then a man went up to the king and whispered in his ear, "Your Majesty, Queen Malika has given birth to a daughter." When this was said, King Pasenadi was disappointed. Then, knowing that King Pasenadi was disappointed, on that occasion the Buddha recited these verses. "Well, some women are better than men, O ruler of the people. Wise and virtuous, a devoted wife who honours her mother-in-law. And when she has a son, he becomes a hero, O Lord of the land. The son of such a blessed lady may even rule the realm." Diligence. At Savatthi. Seated to one side, King Pasenadi said to the Buddha, "Sir, is there one thing that secures benefits for both the present life and lives to come?" "There is, great king." "So what is it?" "Diligence, great king, is one thing that, when developed and cultivated, secures benefits for both the present life and lives to come. The footprints of all creatures that walk can fit inside an elephant's footprint, so an elephant's footprint is said to be the biggest of them all. In the same way, diligence is one thing that secures benefits for both the present life and lives to come. That is what the Buddha said. For one who desires a continuous flow of exceptional delights, long life, beauty, and health, heaven, and birth in an eminent family, the astute praise diligence in making merit. Being diligent, an astute person secures both benefits, the benefit in this life and in lives to come. A wise one, comprehending the meaning, is called astute. good friends. At Savatthi, seated to one side, King Pasenadi said to the Buddha, "Just now, sir, as I was in private retreat, this thought came to mind. The teaching is well explained by the Buddha, but it's for someone with good friends, companions, and associates, not for someone with bad friends, companions, and associates." "That's so true, great king, that's so true," said the Buddha, and he repeated the king's statement, adding, "Great king, this one time I was staying in the land of the Sakyans, where they have a town named Nagaraka. Then the mendicant Ananda came to me, bowed, sat down to one side and said, 'Sir, good friends, companions, and associates are half the spiritual life.' When he had spoken, I said to him, 'Not so, Ananda, not so, Ananda. Good friends, companions, and associates are the whole of the spiritual life. A mendicant with good friends, companions, and associates can expect to develop and cultivate the Noble Eightfold Path.' And how does a mendicant with good friends develop and cultivate the Noble Eightfold Path? It's when a mendicant develops right view, right thought, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right immersion, which rely on seclusion, fading away, and cessation, and ripen as letting go. That's how a mendicant with good friends develops and cultivates the Noble Eightfold Path. And here's another way to understand how good friends are the whole of the spiritual life. For by relying on me as a good friend, sentient beings who are liable to rebirth, old age, and death, to sorrow, lamentation, pain, sadness, and distress, are freed from all these things. This is another way to understand how good friends are the whole of the spiritual life. So, great king, you should train like this. I will have good friends, companions, and associates. That's how you should train. When you have good friends, companions, and associates, you should live supported by one thing, diligence in skillful qualities. When you're diligent, supported by diligence, your ladies of the harem, aristocrat vassals, troops, and people of town and country will think, "The king lives diligently, supported by diligence. We'd better live diligently, supported by diligence." When you're diligent, supported by diligence, then not only you yourself, but your ladies of the harem, and your treasury and storehouses will be guarded and protected. That is what the Buddha said. For one who desires a continuous flow of exceptional wealth, the astute praise diligence in making merit. Being diligent, an astute person secures both benefits, the benefit in this life and in lives to come. A wise one, comprehending the meaning, is called astute. Childless, first. At Savatthi, then King Pasenadi of Kosala went up to the Buddha in the middle of the day, bowed and sat down to one side. The Buddha said to him, "So, great king, where are you coming from in the middle of the day?" "Sir, here in Savatthi a financier householder has passed away. Since he died childless, I have come after transferring his fortune to the royal compound. There was 8 million in gold, not to mention the silver, and yet that financier ate meals of rough gruel with pickles. He wore clothes consisting of 3 pieces of sun hemp. He travelled around in a vehicle that was a dilapidated little cart, holding a leaf as sunshade." "That's so true, great king, that's so true. When a bad person has acquired exceptional wealth, they don't make themselves happy and pleased, nor do they make their mother and father, partners and children, bondservants, workers and staff, and friends and colleagues happy and pleased. And they don't establish an uplifting religious donation for ascetics and Brahmins that's conducive to heaven, ripens in happiness, and leads to heaven. Because they haven't made proper use of that wealth, rulers or bandits take it, or fire consumes it, or floods sweep it away, or unloved heirs take it. Since that wealth is not properly utilized, it's wasted, not used. Suppose there was a lotus pond in an uninhabited region with clear, sweet, cool water, clean, with smooth banks, delightful. But people don't collect it, or drink it, or bathe in it, or use it for any purpose. Since that water is not properly utilized, it's wasted, not used. In the same way, when a bad person has acquired exceptional wealth, it's wasted, not used. When a good person has acquired exceptional wealth, they make themselves happy and pleased, and they make their mother and father, partners and children, bondservants, workers and staff, and friends and colleagues happy and pleased, and they establish an uplifting religious donation for ascetics and Brahmins that's conducive to heaven, ripens in happiness, and leads to heaven. Because they make proper use of that wealth, rulers or bandits don't take it, fire doesn't consume it, flood doesn't sweep it away, and unloved heirs don't take it. Since that wealth is properly utilized, it's used, not wasted. Suppose there was a lotus pond not far from a town or village with clear, sweet, cool water, clean, with smooth banks, delightful, and people collected it and drank it and bathed in it and used it for their own purpose. Since that water is properly utilized, it's used, not wasted. In the same way, when a good person has acquired exceptional wealth, it's used, not wasted. As cool water in an uninhabited region evaporates when not drunk, so too when a sinner acquires wealth, they neither use it themselves nor give it away. But when a wise and sensible person gets hold of wealth, they use it and do their duty. That head, having supported the family unit, blameless, goes to a heavenly place. Childless, second. Then King Pasenadi of Kosala went up to the Buddha in the middle of the day. The Buddha said to him, "So, great king, where are you coming from in the middle of the day?" "Sir, here in Savatthi a financier householder has passed away. Since he died childless, I have come after transferring his fortune to the royal compound. There was 10 million in gold, not to mention the silver. And yet that financier ate meals of rough gruel with pickles. He wore clothes consisting of 3 pieces of sun hemp. He travelled around in a vehicle that was a dilapidated little cart, holding a leaf as sunshade." "That's so true, great king, that's so true. Once upon a time, great king, that financier householder provided alms food on behalf of a Buddha awakened for himself named Thaggarasikhi. He instructed, 'Give alms to that ascetic,' before getting up from his seat and leaving. But after giving he regretted it. It would have been better to feed the bondservants or workers with that alms food. What's more, he murdered his brother's only child for the sake of his fortune. Because that financier provided Thaggarasikhi with alms food, as a result of that deed, he was reborn 7 times in a good place, a heavenly realm. As a residual result of that same deed, he held the position of financier 7 times right here in Savatthi. But because that financier regretted giving alms, as a result of that deed, his mind didn't tend to enjoy nice food, clothes, vehicles, or the 5 refined kinds of sensual stimulation. And because that financier murdered his brother's only child for the sake of his fortune, as a result of that deed, he burned in hell for many years, for many hundreds, many thousands, many hundreds of thousands of years. And as a residual result of that same deed, for the 7th time, since he is childless, his fortune ends up in the royal treasury. Now the old merit of that financier has been used up, and he hasn't accumulated new merit. Today, great king, that financier burns in the great hell of screams. So, sir, That Vanatya has been reborn in the great hell of screams? Yes, he has, great king. That is what the Buddha said. Grain, wealth, silver and gold, or whatever other possessions there are, bondservants, workers, employees, and those dependent for their livelihood, you must go on without taking these. All of them are left behind. But the deeds you do by body, speech and mind, that's what you can call your own. That's what you take when you go. That's what goes with you, like a shadow that never leaves. That's why you should do good, investing in the future life. The good deeds of sentient beings support them in the next world.